Hey everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about a challenge that I will be following for the rest of 2026. This is a challenge originating from Josh of Already Overbooked, and I just am here to tell you that as I filmed the entire video and it was 24 minutes long, I realized that my mic that I'm holding right now was actually like down. It was down on the floor the entire time that I recorded the video, and I didn't realize it until the video was already filmed, and I really don't want to refilm the video. So that is why you're getting this kind of an intro. You will be getting another intro with bad sound in just a moment from now, but I wanted to apologize to you guys beforehand because the sound is you can hear me talking because I saw like the little things on my camera telling me that the sound was working. So that's why it didn't even occur to me that I was like not holding the mic. But in any case, the sound is there. You'll be able to hear me, but the quality is not that great. So please bear with me. And I apologize to Josh, for the sound of my following your challenge not being terrific in this video. Don't hold it against Josh or anything. It's completely my fault. I will do the best that I can in the editing to make the sound better, but I really honestly just don't feel like refilming the entire video. So this is my apology. Thankfully, I'm not a huge channel, so I will only be disappointing potentially a very small group of people. Anyway, let's get to it. Well, hello everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I am in the same outfit as the last video. So if you have just come from that one, you may notice that we have not changed much in terms of the background. And for that, I apologize, but I have a lot on my plate today. So I'm going to be batch filming videos. I did change my hairstyle for you a little bit, so hopefully you guys will find that somewhat interesting. Anyhow, in today's video, as you probably have guessed from the video's title and thumbnail, I am going to be talking to you guys about participating in the Overbooked challenge for 2026. Now, this is a challenge which was originally created by Josh from Already Overbooked, whose channel I will link below to the original video if you guys want to go and check that out. If you guys don't know Josh has been on BookTube for about a year, if I'm not mistaken, and he covers mostly fantasy, like grimdark, and I think I want to say a little bit of horror as well. So definitely a channel to go and check out if those are some genres that would be interesting to you. But today, what I am going to do is I'm going to commit to partaking in the challenge for 2026, and we're just going to go over some of the categories and the books that I have selected to fit into those categories. So let's get started. Now, the way that this challenge works is that every month there's going to be a sort of prompt, and the response is just to select one book or one text that we feel fits the needs of that prompt, and then we just go ahead and read it and, I guess, talk about it or what have you. It's just a way to sort of work through a little more the physical TBR, and that's what I'm going to be chiefly using this challenge for. It will be to knock at least 12 books off of my physical TBR. So without further ado, let's get started, and I will talk to you about the question for January. The challenge question for January is to read a book by an author that you have never read before. So I chose Sundial by Catriona Ward, who is an author that was new to me that I'm sure a lot of you guys have read already. I'm a little bit cheating with this one because it is a book that I had started about 3 or 4 days before I saw Josh's video on this challenge, but as I hadn't quite completed the book yet, I decided to include it as the January selection. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go with it because it's my channel and I can do that if I want to, and we're just going to call that one done. So for February, Josh is asking us to pick a trope that we claim to hate and then to read a book which is centered around that trope. So one trope that I really can't stand is the one of like the heist master, the chess master, the grand manipulator, all of that stuff. And so for me, what I'm going to be selecting for the February challenge is going to be The White Tiger. I don't really know anything about this book. I picked it up at a used book sale, I think out in Hudson earlier last year, and it's just a book that I've seen floating around a little while, but not that people are currently talking about. So it's probably because I'm a little behind to the game that I don't know much about it. But when I looked up on Goodreads what lists like sort of fall into this trope, that book came up, and I happen to own a copy of it. So that was really the only reason that I kind of picked it. I have it up there somewhere. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I will be selecting that one for the February challenge. Then in March, Josh is asking us to read a book that we have owned the longest but haven't yet cracked open. And boy, oh boy, I had to do some research on that one. So I actually went to my book outlet orders and I triaged them by date. And from there, I selected the book that I'm going to be reading for this part of the challenge. Now, this was a book that I actually bought in October of 2024. And that is also a book that in my 26 to read in 2026, I believe I had selected for that challenge as well, which was like not a challenge that was self-imposed by me, but it was just like a hit list of books that I need to get to this year. but I don't really stick to that. It's not dogma. It's like, I would like to in an ideal world. So because this book could fit on either one of those lists, I decided to go for this challenge question with The Other Valley, which is a sci-fi, if I'm not mistaken, about time travel, where you are following a group of citizens that live in a valley, which I think is set in like France, in the mountains in France. And then on one side of the valley, the people that are approved by the council can jump forward 20 years into the future. And then on the other side of the valley, if the council so approves, people can jump back 20 years into the past. And so it can enable people to have a little bit more control over their lives, I'm assuming. But of course, they have to petition the councils in the council in that book, and the council will have to approve or disapprove of the particular person's request. Anyway, it sounds very interesting to me, and it has been sitting around for a really long time, so that is the one that I'm going to be picking for the month of March. And then in April, we are asked to do a buddy read. Now, since I have no reading buddies, because I'm pretty much the only person that reads in my circle, as you guys know, I decided to just sort of pick a book for the month of April, which I am committing absolutely to reading in April, and I was going to invite you guys to join along for this part of the buddy read as part of the April challenge. So for this part of the challenge, I actually decided to go with Shady Hollow, which is a murder mystery, and it is kind of like, I guess, a cozy, I don't know, but I chose this one basically based on the cover. Maybe it'll work for me because there is a murder mystery and it's not just like a found family situation. I'm hoping that the mystery will be enough to hook me. It's also an author that I don't know, who is like a new to me author. I don't think that they're a new author, because I think that there are 4 books out. There's at least 3 that I saw in this series. I don't know if a 4th one is coming or if it's already been published, but I was thinking that I would read this one since it's not too long of a book. It's coming in at about 220 pages, and I thought that if you guys wanted to join me on this buddy read, we could do it together. So in the April reads, when I do the April wrap up, I will be talking about this book as well, and then you guys can let me know in the comments if you've read it, if you've joined me, and what you thought. And then in May, Josh is asking us to read a book that is set in or written by an author who is in a country that we have never read from before. And so for this one, I've chosen to read The Shadow of the Wind. This is a book that I've heard people talking about a lot. I see the name sort of floating around Bookiverse, and I see it a lot in used bookstores and library sales and all of that jazz. So I don't really know anything about it. I would be going into it completely blind. I believe it was originally written in Spanish. I kind of feel like it was a translation, and there might be some magical realism elements in it. So it has been on my radar. It just has not been a top priority, and I think that by participating in this challenge, it would give me a good reason to finally get to it. So that's the one I'm going to pick for May. And then in June, it is the DNF Redemption Arc. So this is the one that gives me a chance to pick up a previously DNF'd book and give it a second chance. And so for that one, I think that I'm going to pick A Quantum Love Story by Mike Chen. And that's because I did make it a good way through the book, and I had some discussions with one of my followers on Instagram who had completed that book, and she was telling me that my original suspicions about the I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away, but there's this one character in the story whose reaction to receiving some news was not quite the reaction that one would have expected that person to have. And I found that, first of all, it stood out to me. And secondly, I found it really, really bizarre. But I wasn't really like in the mood for, I guess, the prose of the novel at the time. And I felt like it was supposed to be a love story that didn't have any elements of a love story. So I wasn't really sure what was happening with that book. And it felt like very sort of unfocused, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. So, but I never I DNF'd that book, but I never unhauled that book. So because I still have it, because I thought that there would potentially be a chance that I would get around to it again, I decided to hang on to it, and I think I'm going to pick it up for June and kind of read the latter half, because Angela, who I was talking to on Instagram about this, had said to me that like I was kind of going down the right direction in terms of my theory, so I'd like to see where that goes. Anyway, I'm going to give that book a second chance. In July, Josh is asking us to read a polarizing book, and I think that Josh for this challenge chose for himself to read The Gunslinger, and since I have a copy of The Gunslinger, I may read that book along with him in July. However, I did pre-select one that I thought I might like to read in July, which is kind of like a polarizing book, either by topic or by reader general consensus type of situation. And so when I was doing some research on this topic, I came across a Reddit post where people were talking about the book We Need to Talk About, Kevin. And that is a book that I also have sitting on my physical TBR. So I'm not sure. I'm going to sort of have like 2 books, I think, for this category. And I'm going to choose them by mood depending on how I'm feeling at the time. So either it's going to be like a sci-fi Stephen King, The Dark Tower series, I'm actually going to go with the first book in that series and see what that's all about, or I'm going to do We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is a very different situation. I think that We Need to Talk About Kevin has to do with like a psychopathic killer of a kid. I don't really know much more about it than that, but I do have both those books on my TBR, so I guess I'm just going to see how I feel when the month rolls around, and I'll let you guys know which one I pick. And then in August, we are asked to read something that is in the back to school category, which is either a nonfiction or a classic. And I also have some options for that one as well. I do have a copy of Wilkie Collins' The Woman in White, which is something that I read when I was in uni doing my Bachelor of English Literature. We focused mostly on late Victorian and Edwardian literature, as well as some 17th and 18th century British lit at the time. So The Woman in White was the first book that I had ever read that had such coded lesbianism in it. And it's a book that I would like to potentially revisit at some point. It focused on, you know, a husband that was trying to get away with his wife's fortune, and so he had her committed into a house for the insane, because that was something that was pretty frequently done back then. The husband could just have the wife committed and steal her fortune, and that's basically the premise of The Woman in White, in a very sort of quick summary of what the plot is about. So I was thinking of potentially revisiting that one, or I also haven't really read a good nonfiction in quite some time, and when I want to read a good nonfiction that kind of plays out as a narrative, I tend towards David Grann. So I was thinking that I might also pick up, or instead of The Woman in White, if I'm not feeling like doing a classic, I might pick up The Killers of the Flower Moon, which is one that has been sitting on my TBR as well. So I have some good options for this category. Let me know which one you would choose. September is the cover chaos prompt, and that is asking us to read a book that we bought solely based on the cover. And for me, that is going to be The Tears of the Truffle Pig, because I took one look at that cover and I said, my God, that is fascinating. Like, I need to know what is going on inside that book. And I believe that that one is also a sci-fi. So I think it could be, well, I'm hoping anyway that it's going to be very interesting, because the cover certainly struck me as something that I wanted to reach out and pick the book up off the shelf. So for me, the total cover read where I know absolutely nothing about the plot, the blurb on the back, anybody else's reviews, I never see people talking about it, I don't know anything about this author, that one was bought purely based on the cover, and that's the one that I'm going to pick for the month of September. And then in October, we are asked to look at Monsters and Mayhem, which is very apropos for Halloween, the month of October, and Josh is asking us to pick something spooky, bloody, or weird. And so for this, I'm going to be picking my first Josh Malerman. Now, I did have a copy of Bird Box at some point, which I ended up DNFing because, I don't know, sometimes psychological horrors don't do really well for me. Like, I know that they made it into a Netflix or a TV book-to-screen adaptation, and I thought that I was going to be really scared, so I think that I ended up unhauling this book unread. But I did find over the Christmas break, and you guys will see it in an upcoming book haul, a copy of Goblin, which is I think it's a collection of like 8 short stories that all take place in the same town, but it's all like different short stories. So because I like short stories and anthologies in general, and it's got like I think Goblin is actually the name of the town, if I'm not mistaken, because I read something on the blurb just very briefly, which I'll talk to you guys more about when I see you in the book haul video, which I'm waiting for another package to come in before I film for you. But basically, I'm going to be reading that one for this prompt. And I'm going to be mentally preparing myself for that between now and October. And then in November, Josh is asking us to do a take 2 and to reread a book that we had previously rated 5 stars in 2025 and to see if it still holds its own. And for me, that's going to be a really easy pick. It's going to be Chain Gang All Stars, which is a book that I have read, rated 5 stars, and have been looking forward to an opportunity to reread in the near future. I do think that I might like to get the audio version for this reread. I did hear some really, really great things about the audio version. I do have a copy of Chain Gang All Stars, which is somewhere up there. I think it's out of frame, so you guys can't see it, but I did end up originally I had taken that book out from the library, and then Book Outlet had it on sale, and I bought a copy because I wanted to have a copy for my bookshelves. So yeah, Chain Gang All Stars is a book that you guys know I've been meaning to reread for a while. I've talked about it before, but again, I can't seem to find an audio copy, not on Hoopla, not on, well, I don't know, maybe it is on Hoopla. I actually didn't look, but I know that the 2 libraries that I belong to do not, either one of them have a copy of Chain Gang All Stars on audios. I may have to use one of my Audible credits for it. I'm not exactly sure, but that is what I'm going to be working on in the month of November in terms of a reread to see if it holds its own, and between you and me, I think it probably will. And then finally, in the month of December, we have Finished the Damn series. And I think if you've been following me for any length of time, you probably have guessed which series I have been putting off and putting off and putting off, and I think that maybe December is going to be the time to finally finish the series. And so you probably guessed by now that the series that I need to finish is the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne, and I have not yet read The Fury of the Gods. I read The Hunger of the Gods, and I felt that it went a little flat for me. After having given 5 stars to The Shadow of the Gods, I went into the second book in the series and I felt like it just didn't do for me what the first book in the series did, and so because of that I have been putting off reading The Fury of the Gods, and it's actually shameful. It's actually shameful. I really need to get on that, and I think that if I commit myself to Josh's challenge, I will have no excuse, because I'm committing to Josh and I am committing to you out there, and in some very, very small way also to myself, that I am going to finish the series. Now, it's not because the book is unreadable. It's a very, very easy read, absolutely accessible prose. That's not the issue. My problem that I had was that there were too many, or there are, because the book is, you should always talk about a book in the present tense because it exists. That's something that English majors learn very early in our careers. So there are a lot of battle scenes in The Hunger of the Gods, and I don't do too well with battle scenes. I tend to mentally conk out because they're kind of boring, and I know that there are a lot of people that talk about John Gwynne's writing, saying how he writes battle scenes like a master. I'm sure he does, and I'm sure I would appreciate it too if I cared. So that's the thing. So that's why I've been putting off The Fury of the Gods, but I think it's high past time that I get on that, because I have the whole series here of The Faithful and The Fallen, which is actually still shrink wrapped, and the reason that I haven't gotten to that is because of The Hunger of the Gods and my feels about that one. So that is going to bring us to the end of today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while we selected the books for the already overbooked 2026 reading challenge. I hope you guys had a good time. Let me know what you think of the picks, and where I've had choices between 1 or 2 books, which ones do you think that I should be going with. Also, go ahead and check out Josh's channel and get on board with this challenge if you would like to. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you again in the next video. I'm waiting for 1 box of books to show up in the mail, and then I'm going to be showing you a book haul of all of the books that I got on vacation when we did that little free library crawl in Fredericton, and I did some thrifting there and some other things. So I'm excited to show you guys that, but I'm waiting for a book outlet order, because technically I did buy those books while I was on vacation, so that's going to be a whole other video. Anyway, I hope you will join me for that. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again in the next video. Ciao for now.